What's up, guys? We got a great show for you today. We're going to be coming to you from Queen City Radio here in a second, breaking down all the weekend's action. But first, I want to talk to you about DraftKings. Football season has begun, and it's not too late, though, to get closer to the game you love with 1 week fantasy football. This Sunday, DraftKings is hosting a free $100,000 pick'em contest. Pick'em is the newest way to play 1 week fantasy football, and drafting your team is faster than ever. DraftKings has organized players into 8 tiers. All you have to do is select one player from each tier, choose between public contests with big cash prizes, or you can do a private contest with you and your friends. DraftKings also has beginner and casual contests where you'll play against people with similar skill levels to you. The best part is you get a new team each week, no commitment. So go to DraftKings.com right now, use the promo code PFF to play in DraftKings free contest to win $100,000 this Sunday. That's the promo code PFF to complete for a chance to win $100,000. Totally free. Go check it out. Why wouldn't you try it? DraftKings.com. What is up? Welcome in, everybody. I am Mike Renner. I am joined by Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo. We are PFF. We're here live, coming to you live from Queen City Radio in downtown Cincinnati, like we will be every Thursday during the regular season. And I'm just going to address the elephant in the room right now, because last week we had arguably the worst week, Sam, of picks of our entire careers here at PFF.
Yeah, not just picks, but general analysis.
Yeah, it was
everything
like everything
week.
Was off.
Yeah.
I went, I believe, 6-10. You might have gone 5-11. It was ugly. So
wasn't I 8-7?
Steve, you weren't part
here.
of this. Okay,
you abdicated responsibility and left.
But I did have something going on.
We burned the tape. We're not going to look back on it. We're not going to download that again.
No.
And we're on Cincinnati. So let's get into the games this week. First off, Thursday Night Football, Bears traveling to Green Bay, NFC North rivalry. Hasn't been much of a rivalry, though, in recent years. Packers have sort of dominated. Packers favored by 7 in this one, though. They're without their first 5 offensive tackles. They are going to be starting.
Is that a problem?
Possibly a guy who was on the practice squad for the Cardinals, which practice squad of the Cardinals at tackle right now is maybe like the lowest of the low. If you're like an offensive lineman in the NFL and they aren't immediately starting at tackle for the Cardinals, that's an issue.
Bottom 5 offensive line in the league right now.
Yes. So, and his name is Ulrich John, which not a typo. His first and last name were switched, apparently. He might be starting at tackle for the Packers. Is this gonna derail the Packers offense like we saw in the Atlanta game?
I think there's a good chance it does. I'm the one person that's picking Chicago to win this game, and the reason I am is because they're starting people like that on the offensive line. Last week, Aaron Rodgers was under pressure more than he was kept clean.
Yes.
And he had a passer rating of 104 when he was pressured. No way that happens 2 weeks in a row. Aaron Rodgers is great under pressure, but nobody is that great under pressure. If he's pressured again, 60% of his snaps, they're going to have problems.
Yeah, that offense against Atlanta was almost comical. Like, if every pass that he completed, I think his average depth of pass that he completed was like 2 yards down the field. They just had no time to execute a drop-back passing offense. They tried then against Cincinnati to do it, and like you said, every time they did it, he was under pressure. So, do they just revert back to the offense and say, hey, Aaron Rodgers is going to get sacked 6 times? You know, he's going to get sacked a handful of times, but we need to actually have some sort of downfield game to win this one?
See, I think they can have I think most of their dropbacks need to be quick game. It needs to be those quick, flat screens that they run all the time and get the ball out of his hands, but they can still max protect and play action and try to hit a few shots over the top, keep 8 blockers in every now and again. I think that is a part of what's been missing from that offense too, is Aaron Rodgers' ability to drive the ball down the field. And I know, it's a little risky without your offensive tackles, without your first 4 offensive tackles, but they're going to have to be able to take some shots. I still like Green Bay in this game because I think they're, if anybody can handle the pressure, like you guys were saying, Rodgers handled it last week. He can handle it as well as any quarterback in the NFL. So I still think they'll be okay offensively. And you're still looking at a Mike Glennon-led Bears offense on the other side, right? How much faith do you have in them on a weekly basis?
Did you guys see the statistics for how this all-time series is? They've been playing since, the dawn of the NFL, essentially. They are 94, 4, 6. So the series is tied now.
Oh, I hope they tie tonight.
And they're separated by 5 points. 5 points scored over the last 100 years of playing. This is the first time, if Green Bay wins tonight, it'll be the first time they've led the series since 1933.
Ooh, great stats there, Sam. I still think Green Bay will win, but 7-point line here seems like a lot given, like you said, the offensive tackles, the fact that Pernell McPhee's healthy going up against them. could be an issue.
And your boy Leonard Floyd, we need to see him.
That's not my boy.
Well, that's everybody's boy, right? No, you and Bobby.
I was the one who wasn't his boy.
Were you not as high on Floyd?
No, I wasn't at all.
Oh, that was Bobby, who's currently with the San Francisco 49ers. Loved Leonard Floyd. Maybe this is his opportunity to break out, get some pressure.
I mean, when's he going to get a better opportunity?
Never. Yeah.
6 pressures so far for him on 87 pass rushes, but a pretty poor pass rush grade so far for Floyd.
They maybe just put Martellus Bennett at tackle the way he's been catching the ball, though, lately.
Yeah, we called that as a very good fit for Green Bay.
Well, when he catches the ball, it's a good fit.
It is. Just hasn't looked great
open.
just yet. Green Bay, can they rely on the run game to protect Aaron Rodgers a little bit?
I think they'll have to. Ty Montgomery has looked fairly good this season. I think that interior line is still good enough in terms of can open some holes for them. So I think they'll have to shy away from the pass-heavy, nature that they've been over the past few weeks.
I think they'll try, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get that much going on the ground. It's going to be an easier job for those guys to run block than it is pass protect. They're still not able to get a huge amount going.
Well, I like the Packers. Steve likes the Packers. Sam likes the Bears. I think we all like it to be a close game, though, so I'm excited to watch this one. On to the Sunday games, another London one. So, Sam, let's give you your take on this first, since you're familiar with the area. Saints and Miami travel over there. Saints are favored by 3 in this one. Sam, break it down for us.
I don't know how familiar you guys are with geography, but London, not in Ireland.
It's all the same.
They're not?
No.
They're close, though. They're closer than we are.
Different country. There is, in fact, a sea between the two of them.
It's closer than Boston.
There's an ocean between us.
Chicago, Cincinnati. So,
yeah.
You're right there.
You guys speak the same language, right?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. Certainly when it compares to you guys. This is Steve's great theory is that the Saints can only play defense on grass, and Wembley is a grass stadium.
Far.
So
or against Cam Newton.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's probably the bigger of the two factors at play there. But this Miami team looked pretty terrible last week, especially on offense. The Jay Cutler experiment, $10 million worth of Jay Cutler experiment, kind of came crashing down around them. Jay Ajayi is banged up.
Yeah,
that's
not good for them.
That's gonna derail that bet of ours. Well, in your favor anyway.
Yeah.
It's gonna help me. So when you take Jay Ajayi away, even if he's back, he's gonna be not 100%. Jay Cutler playing poorly. The Saints being able to play defense on grass. Suddenly that side of the ball actually looks at least even. And then the other side of the ball, there's no way the Miami Dolphins defense can stop Drew Brees and the Saints.
Saints had Ken Crawley start at cornerback last week, had a big game, targeted 10 times, only gave up 4 catches, had an interception. Marshawn Lattimore's been banged up, but I don't know, they were so bad the first 2 weeks. They showed signs of life last week against I think a banged up Cam Newton. So that was good. I just don't think the Saints are as bad as what we saw the first 2 weeks. Mike, we talked about this before the season. There's no way they could be that bad consistently the entire season, as bad as they were. 140 plus passer rating against that defense the first 2 weeks. They looked much better last week. I think maybe last week was the beginning of turning things around a little bit for the Saints.
Yeah, and Marshawn Lattimore is back healthy this week. He has been at practice. So when they have him on the field, like I said, he looks like a number one type of cornerback. He looks like a guy they can even scheme help away from in terms of being able to help other guys on that defense. So if he's back, I do think that it's going to be enough to at least shut down Jay Cutler.
And Drew Brees quietly our number 2 graded quarterback. If you take out Bradford and playing only one game, Brees number 2 in our PFF grades right now. So, they're 1 and 2, but our actually last week was, hey, Drew Brees is playing okay. That defense needs to play a little bit better. They did last week, and they beat the Panthers.
Also, that Miami offensive line is still pretty terrible, and Cameron Jordan is on an absolute tear this season as well as last season. He's got 2 sacks, 4 hits, 6 quarterback pressures through the first 3 games of the season, 10 defensive stops. He is going to tear through that Miami offensive line.
Miami still has some of these duds, though. Why are they still having duds where they just show up and basically get shut out against the Jets? They scored a touchdown on their last play. How are they still having duds this badly?
So I did the analysis for this game, actually, and watching Jay Cutler, he looked like a guy who had retired and came back out of retirement. Was like,
a guy ready to go
out of retirement.
broadcasting.
He looked like he just didn't want to take any sort of hit whatsoever.
Didn't he look like that before he retired, though?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, like that's Jay Cutler's time. But anytime the pocket sort of collapsed at all, that ball was out, not on target, not anywhere to where it needed to be. That ball was just coming out. So that was
4 for 14 under pressure. 4 for 14 under pressure. 26 yards and 3 sacks.
Yes. That's what it looked like. So if they can get any sort of pressure, and like you mentioned, Cameron Jordan should be able to get pressure against them, he's going to be just throwing the ball out. He's just going to be getting rid of it.
At what point should the Miami Dolphins start to get concerned by the fact that Laremy Tunsil doesn't appear to be very good?
So the tackle learning curve is still
the
tackle learning curve. And it's not that he's not terrible at this point. He's not TJ Clemmings at this point. He's not dreadful. So he could be following the Eric Fisher 4 to 5 year plan at this point.
That's rough.
Which is still not good for where you...
Well, that means...
That's not what was expected either. He wasn't a guy that was supposed to... Like Fisher, people had questions about him. People expected Tunsil was supposed to be the most polished.
The best prospect since Tyron Smith, sort of.
Also, that's such a horrible kind of career arc for a team in that the only way you get any benefit out of him is if you pay him huge
you're signing
for something he hasn't earned yet.
Yeah. No, so Eric Fisher, even though he's fine now as a tackle, was a terrible, in isolation, was a terrible pick. If that's the same...
Right, if you get 4 years of play just to sign a guy to play pretty well as a
you're essentially getting a free agent after playing a bad player for a cheap contract for 4 years.
You guys are just putting a damper on everything.
I like the Saints to cover as well. Lock of the week. All right, on to the 1 p.m. games. Panthers travel to New England to face the Patriots. Patriots are a 9-point favorite. Steve, talk about your boys.
Well, the offenses looked pretty good the last couple of weeks after I thought a concerning week 1. That looked like maybe they're going to miss Julian Edelman. They've started to figure it out. Defensively, this is one of the worst Patriots defenses I think you've ever seen so far.
Almost lost to the Houston Texans.
They are dead last in points against in the NFL.
Yeah, it's been bad. It's been really bad. It's not the same. The last couple of years they've played. Obviously they won the Super Bowl 2 out of the last 3 years, but they've had not the best defense in the league, but a championship caliber type of defense that can shut down some pretty good offensive attacks. So I think it's a huge concern in New England. You can't put that much pressure on the offense. So that's just where New England is right now. They have to figure out something defensively. This feels like one of those years, Belichick always says you don't know what you have until Thanksgiving and all that stuff, where they might just completely change what they do with their personnel, with the scheme. So that would be something to keep an eye on in this. How do they what are they going to do? They've been a cover 1 man coverage team the last couple of years. Do they start playing more zone? Do they start to blitz instead of playing so conservative? I think it's time for Belichick to start experimenting with his personnel.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I actually wrote about the Patriots defense today and what's wrong with them. And it's teams that figured out that you're going to have all day to throw against them. Teams are running deeper concepts. Teams are running concepts that take longer. They've actually had the longest time to throw in the NFL of any defense against an offense. So quarterbacks are averaging 3.1 seconds to throw against that Patriots defense. And even still,
That's
the
absurd.
Patriots are 22nd in terms of pressure rate. They're not pressuring opposing quarterbacks, even though they're standing back there for all day, which is by far the biggest thing wrong with that defense.
And that's always kind of been a Belichick type of thing. You have some schemes where you give the defensive ends free reign to just go. Beat the tackle, beat them outside. If you lose contain, it's not the worst thing in the world. They're always so cognizant about gap control and not even trying to get pressure, just trying to, compress the pocket a little bit. But they've been even more conservative the last couple of years with it. And it's a great point that you bring up, Mike, as far as the time to throw and what teams are trying to do.
That might be the smartest thing you've ever said on this podcast, Mike.
Oh, okay. That's not even top 5.
Mike, call it quits. Just put the headset down.
Yeah, it's not even top 5. I still, though, going up against the Panthers offense, that could get them back on track.
Well, that's a good remedy.
Quick.
That's a good remedy. What's
that
up with Cam
That
Newton?
helps the Saints defense. I think it helps the Patriots defense as well.
What are you guys seeing with Cam?
I got some more good stats for Cam Newton. So I wrote about the Panthers offense this week as well. So I'm fully qualified to talk about
stats, Mike.
These are really good. So last season, Cam Newton, his accuracy, so we tracked ball placement on every throw that happened in the NFL last year, and if it was on the receiver's frame or not. And there were 3 types of throws that Cam Newton was in the bottom 3 in terms of putting it on the receiver's frame. One was screen passes. The other was throws within 1 to 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And the last was leading receivers horizontally across the field, a.k.a. the Christian McCaffrey route tree.
They
drafted Christian McCaffrey to utilize him fully in that offense, and those are the worst throws that Cam Newton makes. They have taken him from a downfield deep passer who he was top 3 in terms of hitting guys open in zones, in terms of stationary receivers in zones. He was top 3 in that. Bottom 3 in those throws that he's now making more.
Ripping those curl routes, things like that. Yep.
They've regressed despite adding talent to that offense, which doesn't make sense, but that's how it works.
They have taken this offense backwards dramatically in an effort to protect Cam Newton. in an effort to protect him, they've taken away everything that he does well and everything that made that offense difficult to defend.
We can't discuss the Panthers for 20 minutes again like we did, but if you want to hear in-depth Panthers analysis, Week 3 recap podcast, Sam and I did it. But Cam looks uncomfortable in the quick passing game. His weaknesses are even worse this year. Is he playing banged up? Sure, that could be a factor, but still poor decisions. One of the highest turnover-worthy throw percentages in the league right now, so he's just not right, and that offense just does not look good.
I think it's a blowout. I think it's Patriots, and I don't think it's close. All right. On to the Rams, who travel to Dallas to face the Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 7.5 in this one, despite the Rams looking fairly good last week, offensively at least. Who are we liking, Sam?
And Dallas didn't look that good. I mean, they ended up getting the win.
Arizona's tough defense, but...
Yeah, no, but they didn't... It's not like... they were saying that was a statement game for them. They wanted to come back, bounce back from that Denver defeat and show the rest of the league they were for real. And I don't know if they really did that. They ended up sneaking away with a win against a tough defense, but it's not like they made this big statement that this is a legitimate team that's to be taken seriously. They got away with it. Weirdly, everybody has gone with Dallas this week for the PFF picks. I agree with you. From what you were saying, this is closer than that. The Rams, I think, are looking pretty good. Dallas is not looking that good. I expect this to be a close game, even if I expect Dallas to edge it.
Any concerns over the Rams' defense? When a team wins 9-6, you say, "Oh, that team really struggled last week. They pulled one out." They won 41-39 against the 49ers. So it is funny how the score.
Late-ish,
no, I understand, but it is funny how the score sometimes dictates. Like, oh, the Rams looked great last week. They gave up 39 to San Francisco. Right, and they could, after a pick six of Brian Hoyer, near pick six of Brian Hoyer, did have some trouble stopping them. So I think the defense is a bit of a concern there. It's the opposite of what we expected. I think it should be a decent game, but I still think Dallas is just a better rounded team. And Goff is still proving himself. That offense is still proving themselves as good as they've looked so far through 3 games.
What happened to Robert Quinn? Because he had a year back in, 2013, where we thought he was, Khalil Mack, Von Miller level, and we thought he was going to be, a superstar in this league, and then all of a sudden, he is nowhere to be found. He has 3 total pressures all season long. 3 games, 3 total pressures, didn't get a single one against Joe Staley last week.
Well, he was never that guy either side of that year either.
So really did come out of nowhere, but at the same time, career progressions, we've seen some crazier ones to think he could sustain it and just not be
Came
close.
From nowhere, had one of the greatest edge rushing seasons we've seen over the past decade, regressed badly the next season to the point where he was just pretty good and has gotten worse every single year since then. So that is one of the more bizarre careers we've tracked since doing all this. I mean, his numbers that year were amazing.
It's been a gradual decrease since 200013. Yeah. And this is rock bottom so far.
He moved that. It was so. There has to be injuries to some degree. There has to be something because that year, the way he bended the edge.
I think it's just bent, Mike.
Bent. Oh, okay, yeah. That was what I was looking for. The way he bent the edge was unbelievable. He looked like a wide receiver sometimes. The way he could turn.
The number of plays he had where he was round the tackle after 1.5 seconds was just unbelievable.
Yes, and that's why he had 19
Except against Joe Staley. Joe Staley. Should that have been an indicator to us, the fact that he still couldn't beat good tackles even that year when he was at the top of his game? Honestly, it's something we have to study more because on the other end of that, and this is just off the top of my head, Olivier Vernon was a guy whose grades weren't great, but he always seemed to do well against Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
So it's
and he beat up Tyron Smith once too.
And he always seemed to do well against Tyron Smith, and ultimately did okay. But with Robert Quinn, the thing I always say, because people say, hey, why don't you adjust for competition? When Robert Quinn beats Jermon Bushrod for like 12 pressures in a game, you still need to do that. You still need to win those games, and dominance deserves credit.
Well, as far as the drop off, and the team you're facing has a crack tackle,
you have to dominate, right? You have to beat the bad guys in front of you. Now, when you're talking about like college and beating up like a FCS guy, that's different. But in the NFL, there's a lot of value in beating the guy in front of you a lot.
Those can be some of the most impactful pass rushing games you're going to get. I mean, taking advantage and destroying a guy who's clearly not on your level can be the difference between winning and losing those games. What I think is interesting is when you look at the numbers between that elite pass rusher and elite tackle, generally when an elite pass rusher runs up against an elite pass blocking tackle, they get shut down. The tackle is the guy that wins that competition. So when you're looking at a guy like Robert Quinn in that season in 2013, and asking, was it a red flag that he wasn't able to beat really top level guys? I don't think so. I think you expect those guys to get pretty much eliminated by those really top level pass protectors. And the fact that he was able to absolutely tear everyone else to pieces should have continued.
You brought us down a rabbit hole here, Mike.
Yeah. All right, let's get back to the actual game, though. Rams versus Cowboys. Battle of two quarterbacks from the 2016 draft class. Which one would you rather take right now if you had to take one? Dak or Jared Goff? We're going to go there.
I would take Dak because his rookie year track record.
I'm saying for the rest of their career.
I understand. Okay. I'm just saying what I saw from him as a rookie compared to what, even though I didn't like him as much coming out of college, I think Dak just, that there's something there.
Okay.
And I like Jared Goff quite a bit. I like Goff quite a bit.
I'm taking Goff. Dak Prescott's rookie season was fantastic. I've been more concerned this year with some of his play. I think there's some very ugly stuff there. When he plays badly, he plays terribly. And obviously has had the best situation of any rookie quarterback to step in for years. Jared Goff in the last couple of weeks, particularly last week, you saw college Jared Goff again. You saw him make some of those throws that were just fantastic passes deep down the sideline. The pass he made where he just flicked the ball over a guy down the sideline, put it into a window. That's the stuff that he was doing all through college that we just didn't see last year. I think they're heading in opposite directions in terms of career arc.
I'm loving what I'm seeing from Goff. His short area accuracy was outstanding against the 49ers. I just want to see him continue to do it. He looks so much more comfortable in that Sean McVay system. I do think it's funny. Everybody just like, Sean McVay. You can't give him all of the credit. Yeah. And people are like, hey, Jared Goff has never done this. It's like, dude, this is exactly what he looked like at Cal. He just was overwhelmed as a rookie in a bad situation, a bad scheme, bad everything around him. He didn't play well. This is the Jared Goff that we saw at Cal.
You just want to be able to take the Goff jersey out of the closet.
Well, it was a gift. I like to wear gifts when they're given to me.
I'll go with Goff as well for the reasons stated.
Nice.
Not in this one though. I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I like Dallas in this game. We all picked Dallas.
Yeah.
All right, we all picked Dallas. All right, on to the Lions, who traveled to Minnesota to face the Vikings. The line is off because of Sam Bradford's whatever injury might happen.
He's fine.
Yeah, he's just okay. He's still okay. But the Lions. Heartbreaking loss last week. I didn't actually realize that they had lost until the second round of games was over, and I was like, oh wait, the Lions lost, because I was doing some other work and had flipped away once the touchdown was called, and I thought there was no chance they overturned it.
Assumed it was.
There's no chance they overturned it. I was like, oh, they lost. How'd that happen? But they kind of got screwed. Do they bounce back here on the road against Minnesota? Your Vikings, Sam?
This is horrible. This is the PFF staff are split exactly 50-50 on this one, and that's kind of where I am.
It's nice in the picture too. It's
very pretty.
Purple, blue.
It's nice. It alternates. Is the technical
on our tweet. Alternates.
Minnesota at home. I'm going with the home team purely because they're at home, but it's really down to whether you're going to get Sam Bradford, because you're not going to get Case Keenum playing the same game he had last week. That's a one and done deal. He is never going to have that performance again in his life. Which means the Vikings need an actual quarterback back there. And if they don't have Sam Bradford, that's going to be a major problem. They sound like they're getting ready for him to play. They've kind of given him the week off from practice, trying to get him game ready, but who knows?
Yeah, it does come down to quarterback position for me as well.
So
let's assume it's Case Keenum, just for argument's sake, because Sam Bradford's, he's okay, but he's probably not going to play. It's Sam Bradford, let's be honest. So let's assume it's Case Keenum. You said last week was an aberration. Is it going to happen again? But the separation that Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs have been able to generate down the field has been impressive. It's been very impressive. I think that they're vaulting themselves up in the receiving core rankings.
Diggs is looking.
They can get open down the field, and
Diggs is such a good route runner.
Diggs looks like Antonio Brown.
He does.
I mean, not just they're the same kind of size. He does the Antonio Brown things as well. Brown. The thing that separates Brown is there's a lot of small receivers that can get open and make some plays, but he will go up and get the ball over defensive backs that are bigger than him that he has no right in doing. Stephon Diggs is doing that stuff as well. Yeah. He's making big receiver plays, going up, getting footballs that are high in the air, taking big hits. The one he took against the Saints where Kenny Vaccaro tried to lay him out after he caught a football. Went up over Vernon Hargreaves this week to catch a touchdown. He is looking like Antonio Brown. And Adam Thielen is the perfect kind of big slot receiver to take advantage of these deep crossing routes, get wide open behind defenses over the middle. They're definitely a really interesting receiving core, which is just as well because it looks like Laquan Treadwell isn't very good.
The other thing that I'll give the Vikings credit for is for all the crap we gave them over the offseason about doing the exact same thing along the offensive line. Mike Remmers and Riley Reiff have yet to give up a sack or a hit.
Yep.
They look like legitimate hard to downgrade, hard to be as bad as they were a tackle a season ago, but they look legitimately competent now.
I didn't trash those moves. Those moves fit perfectly in my phrase.
Get to average.
Get to average. Get back to average. Adding Mike Remmers and Riley Reiff is the definition of adding average tackles, and you see the difference. It's a lot better than T.J. Clemmings out there.
Yeah, they went from disaster to okay, and that's huge.
On the other side, though, Greg Robinson, one of the worst tackles in the NFL right now, and
I was also going to say Matt Khalil playing terribly for Carolina.
And Matt Khalil is really struggling for Carolina, but Greg Robinson for Detroit here. Everybody was laughing at Eric Flowers on Monday Night Football. Greg Robinson was getting torched just as much, but Stafford knew how to avoid the sacks, and it's 3 straight weeks of poor play for Greg Robinson after 3 straight years of it. So there's a big hole at left tackle.
That could get ugly. Everson Griffin already has 4 sacks.
Yes.
He could get to 8.
Called Greg Robinson lazy this week, I believe. So.
Wait, Everson did?
Yeah.
That's a nice.
Stoking the Flyers.
Love that. Oh yeah, it's going to be. I do think Minnesota. This could be a low-scoring game. I do think Minnesota's defense is well equipped to shut down the Lions' offense.
The other thing that's interesting is Dalvin Cook has been huge for that offense because of all the things we said that he is capable of generating his own yardage. He's not a guy that needs wide open blocking lanes to get yards. He is number 2 in the league, I think, in terms of rushing yardage. He's also number 2 in yards after contact. So Kareem Hunt obviously is number 1 in both those statistics because he's just walking away with all of the numbers so far. But Dalvin Cook has gained 163 of his 288 yards after contact. So he is making his own yardage behind a blocking unit that still isn't that great.
I'll say this, too. It is an interesting year when you talk about a team like the Vikings, a team like the Chiefs with Kareem Hunt. Those teams are now like two more explosive offenses with playmakers all over the place. We weren't expecting that coming into the year, and that kind of changes how you view the Vikings down the road. Quarterback, though. Can Case Keenum keep it up? That's my big question. That's why I went with Detroit.
Sam Bradford, they win. Case Keenum, they lose.
It's that simple.
I went with Minnesota because I picked Detroit incorrectly.
We hate Lions fans.
Each of the first 3 weeks.
The Lions.
They screwed me last week after I finally picked them.
Well, why did you pick them against Atlanta?
Because, they should have won. They
were short of the goal line.
All right. We'll get right back to the action in a second, but first I want to talk to you guys about my new favorite fantasy football app called Draft. Search Draft in your app store. It has these things called best ball leagues where you draft your team right now, go for the rest of the season, and you don't have to change it at all. It will take your best scores at each position each week. No reason to worry about injuries, no reason to worry about starting or who to start, who to sit each week. It'll take your best players every week. You can play in 10-man leagues, 6-man leagues. You can even do head-to-head leagues there where it's each week of the season you can draft a new team against one person and see who you win that week. They also have these things called head-to-head tournaments where you can win thousands of dollars in a tournament. Right now there's a $12 entry where you can win $1,300 if you win it. 128 people. Each week you'll be going through the season. If you win for 8 straight weeks, you win that $1,200. So go ahead, check out Draft in the App Store. I know I've played in a handful of leagues. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out. Use the promo code PFF and you'll get a free $3 entry into a best ball league. That's the promo code PFF. Search Draft in your App Store. Go ahead and do it today. And now we're going to kick it over to George Sharuri and Eric Eager for their weekly segment on analytics, telling you who is the lock of the week.
Back, ready for week 4, despite a pretty brutal beating that we took at the hands of Blake Bortles last week. I'm still getting over it. I don't want to talk about it. Eric, I hope
Me either.
Yeah, I hope you feel the same way. All right.
Yep.
So we're going to skip right past that and move on to our lock of the week this week. We are traveling to Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Broncos, Raiders. The Broncos are currently 3-point favorites. And we have the white Bronco riding unimpeded into the sunset, covering a 3-point spread. So let's go ahead and dive into like what could go wrong first, and then we'll hammer home the good golden nuggets at the end.
I mean, what could go wrong, really, right? With two good teams, and the battle for the team that loses this game is probably going to be 2 games behind Kansas City when the week's over. So there's kind of a lot on the line here. But I think one of the things that we've tried not to do, George, is what?
I've overreacted literally every minute of every quarter of every game, so I don't know what you're talking about. But
I remember a Eagles-Chiefs game. The Eagles were up 10-6, and I was supposed to be led to believe that the Chiefs were terrible. They came back and covered.
They are.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I agree that like we probably shouldn't overreact. I think we're doing a good job of not overreacting here, but you brought up the point of Khalil Mack going up against who's he going up against again?
Menelik Watson and his 35.7 grade, which I don't care if you're taking a Calculus 2 test or blocking the right side of the offensive line. Both of those are bad.
Yeah, it's actually bad regardless of what you're doing. So, I mean, that could be bad. But I kind of feel like it's Khalil Mack and really no one else on the Raiders defense. I mean, at least it hasn't looked particularly stout thus far. So I think that's if it goes wrong, it's probably Khalil Mack in the backfield all day long. But I think there's probably some more points kind of on the other side of that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, because the issue has been with Simeon so far. Like last week, his passer rating was about 25 when under pressure, and then this season and the whole season's worth, it's about 32 when under pressure. So certainly, it could be an issue with, Mack coming in and making, Simeon far less efficient than he's been. But I think, both of us are on the side of Denver here because Denver has, basically a counterpoint in Von Miller on the left side of their defense, rushing from the edge there with his 3 sacks, his 5 hits, and his 13 hurries so far through 3 games. And then also they have that really stout secondary.
Yeah, right. So when I think about this, like what we should learn from last week is that we need to kind of project forward what sort of a situation the quarterback is going to be in. And Carr so far this year, as good as I think everyone assumes he's been for, every, season since his rookie year, he's been really bad under pressure this year. 2.3 yards per attempt, which, God, there's been some low numbers here in this segment. But 2.3 yards per attempt under pressure. He's getting sacked 30% of the time that he's under pressure, which is second in the league. The 2.3 yards per attempt is the worst. It's worse than Flacco is. So, on top of Von Miller, they've got Shaq Barrett coming on the other side. He's, I think, tied for 4th in the league in pressures, and Von is 2nd. So I think the combination of pressure on Carr, him wanting to get the ball out quickly, but then Denver having those cornerbacks that can cover, it's to be seen whether Amari Cooper's hands travel outside of Oakland. So.
Right, they've certainly had issues with drops all season, and both Cooper kind of being the one that stands out, but Crabtree also as well. So
yeah, he was bad last year too.
Yeah, I mean and those are the things, and we normally kind of step back and say drops are not that stable year to year, but it's one of those things that I think from game to game can be possibly stable because it kind of gets in somebody's head. And then you compound that with the fact that the trio of cornerbacks for Denver is probably the league's best. That's kind of why we're on this side, and Denver being at home as well.
Yeah. And no one ever, I've never even heard this mentioned, talks about how, the altitude in Denver can be, an issue. So, just add that on top of everything. And I think we've got a good one here. I feel at least a little better than I did last week when we had the Flacco debacle.
The Flacco fiasco for the alliteration people.
God, that was so well. Blake Bortles, I'll raise you an alliteration there. He took it to us. So that's what we got this week. I think both of us are pretty excited about it. At least we have a better game regardless. So that'll be good. If you want a little more, I would point you in the direction of ProFootballFocus.com. We've got 5 picks up in our weekly column. We had a little bit of an off week last week, but we have a winning record, 3-2, so not all bad. And then of course you can get everything with the PFF Elite subscription. You get the against the spread picks, the over/under stuff. You get so much, it's ridiculous. So go get that if you haven't already. Anything else for the people, Eric, or is that good?
Yeah, good luck.
I'll need it. Alrighty, guys, we'll see you next week.
Let's move on to the Titans, who travel to the Texans. Titans favored by 1.5 this game. Texans offense actually looked like it had some signs of life against the Patriots. Maybe it was Patriots defense. Maybe Deshaun Watson's really coming into his own. Which one is it, Steve?
Well, Deshaun Watson showed his playmaking ability in that game. He made some unbelievable plays, seam route for a touchdown, back shoulder corner route for a touchdown, chucked one back across his body, which people say, oh, you can't do that. Unless the guy's open, you can do that, and he made a really nice play. Also had some bad plays, bad interception, bad fumble. So the usual rookie ups and downs. I still think that offense just has too many holes on the offensive line, not enough playmakers besides DeAndre Hopkins. And Tennessee, after losing to Oakland in Week 1, shaping up to looking like what I expected, at least one of the best teams in the AFC. So I like Tennessee in this game, but as far as Watson goes, it was good to at least see those high-end plays, which we hadn't seen in his first game and a half or so.
People are losing the run of themselves over Deshaun Watson. Bill Simmons was talking about his MVP candidacy after.
I usually don't pay attention to what other people are saying. That did stumble across my feed.
And it wasn't just him. There was some NFL.com guys, I think, were talking in similar terms.
Bill Simmons, if you beat the Patriots, you have to be the best.
Well, that's true. So. Yeah.
But he broke out of like 2 sacks and made 3 big-time throws.
Come on.
Which was awesome, which was great.
Not the most repeatable thing in the world, though.
Yeah. Also, not MVP caliber anything.
Okay.
And it was 1 week. The week before he was terrible, but for 1 touchdown run.
A week before they won
impressive.
13-9 against the Bengals.
And like we talked about earlier, the Patriots defense, they don't stunt much. They rush the passer, with rush lanes in mind. They bull rush a lot. Uniquely qualified to not take advantage of the Houston Texans' terrible offensive line. The Titans, on the other hand, they blitz a ton. They're one of the top 5 blitz heaviest teams in the NFL last year. They stunt a ton. We're one of the top 5 stunt heaviest teams in the NFL last year.
And they have legitimate pass rushers.
That's going to be an issue for
Brian Aranco on his own is going to get a ton of pressure.
I think I said last week, Texans looked like it was after week 1. They looked like they had not actually ever seen a stunt before.
Yeah.
This could get
horrible.
ugly because they'll stun them to death. The Titans.
The matchup on the other side, though. Houston's defensive front, J.J. Watt, doesn't have sacks, but he's looking like J.J. and Jadeveon Clowney and Whitney Merciless against Tennessee's offensive line that just gave up 2 pressures to the Seattle Seahawks last week. Check out our actually this week. We broke it down. But Tennessee's offensive line has given up 6 pressures the last 2 weeks, so it should be a fun battle.
That is going to be really fun, that side of the ball, because especially this Titans offensive line likes to physically dominate teams. They went after Seattle hard, and they just wanted to overpower them. And the Titans, or the Texans rather, their defensive front is really good, but it's not a kind of smash mouth type of defense. They want to get after you with, even J.J. Watt is going to come after you with quickness and penetration and getting into it. He's not a kind of stand you up and go physically toe to toe with you. So how those guys kind of match up is going to be interesting. Whether this Houston speed and disruption is going to be enough to overcome the brute force of this Titans offense.
That will be the matchup to watch. I think that'll be somewhat of a stalemate, but then just in terms of talent all the way else around, I think the Titans offense has more than enough to get, 20, 25 points on the board, and I don't see the Texans being that offense that they had last week against the Patriots just being repeatable.
No. Everybody was ready to write off DeMarco Murray, throw Derrick Henry in there. It's still a 2-headed monster back there behind that good offensive line. Marcus Mariota, I want to see a more consistent effort from him start to finish. He missed a ton of throws early on. Yeah. And then, got better as the game went on. But Mariota's another guy that I feel like, mostly because he puts up great fantasy numbers, gets a couple rushing touchdowns here and there, everybody thinks he's arrived. I still need to see more from Mariota. Still misses too many.
One of, the best situations in the NFL, like we mentioned. He was only under pressure twice. And that's not under pressure as a young quarterback. He should be doing better than he is if you're going to live up to your draft status
the stuff that everybody said about Dak last year, the situation, the offensive line, the run game, we can now insert Marcus Mariota into that conversation and say the expectation should be at that level. That's what he's been given. That's the offensive line he's been given. That's the run game he's been given.
His adjusted completion percentage, third worst in the NFL right now. 66.3%.
Just missing too many.
Only better than Deshaun Kaiser and Deshaun Watson. Only better than two rookies.
Titans fans are all over us all the time, too, for this one. And Mariota always seems like a guy that the grades are a little bit worse than the stats, and I do think it's because the situation around him is that much better.
He needs to get better. I still like the
Tennessee.
Titans. Yeah, I was going to say, I still like the Titans in this one. I like them to cover as well. On to the Jaguars, who travel to the Jets, who ruined my hopes of an 0-16 season last week. I mean, Jay Cutler ruined those hopes, but
you're so mad at Jay. You're just all over Jay.
Dude, I was so mad doing that. I had to do the analysis of that game. I was just like crying in my chair.
Why'd you get punished? What happened?
Oh, I don't know.
How were you on that?
That was just ugly all around. But Jaguars favored by 3.5, traveling to New York. Do the Jets make it two in a row, Steve?
I don't think so, but I am historically bad at picking the Jaguars.
The Jaguars are like
every time I decide to jump on the Jags bandwagon, it comes back to bite. But then there's in my head, it's like, could the Jets get to 500? You know, I'm just not expecting it. But then, you know, the Jags would get to 3-1 with a win. Maybe it'll be a tie. I like the Jags because of that defensive front. Going back to the Titans, the 1 week the Jacksonville's defensive front got shut down was against Tennessee in week 2, sandwiched around 2 unbelievable performances by that defensive line.
Yeah, it seems like they bounce back and forth depending on the quality of the offensive line they're going up against. And the Jets have a bad offensive line. So that should lead to that Jaguars defensive front running riot. You're going to see Calais Campbell have a big game. You're going to see a whole bunch of pressure from all those guys. And at which point you're relying on Josh McCown to play well in the face of pressure for them to get anything done on offense. That seems unlikely.
Yeah, I don't like the Jets to score many points in this one. They could get some from Blake Bortles, but I do think I think the Jaguars run away. I don't think this one should be close. Maybe it's just my bias against the Jets, thinking that they're one of the worst offenses of all time, which I think they will be.
Josh McCown played great last week, though.
He played so great that they scored 20 points against the Miami Dolphins defense. That's nothing special. So
yeah,
I think that's their peak. Like that's as high as they're going to get offensively. He had to play the most efficient game of his career to get there. I think anything else, they just don't have any semblance of a downfield passing.
Top end Josh McCown's still pretty good. You just don't see it very often.
You're not going to see it in this one either. The Jaguars cornerbacks, are they on par with the Broncos cornerbacks at this point? I mean, their stats are inflated by facing some ugly quarterbacks on the other side of the ball. But
probably are.
I mean, it's
Jalen Ramsey
a bit better
and
track
AJ
record. Better track record in Denver, but it's not like Ramsey was the number 4 pick overall. We liked him coming out. We saw the tools, and we're starting to see it right now. Boye's breakout season last year has continued to this year, so it's a great combination.
I think the starting 2 are. The thing that separates Denver is that Denver trusts their third guy as well.
Know what they could use over there, Mike?
They could use Marshawn Lattimore. That would have been pretty dope, right?
Mike got laughed off the podcast by suggesting that they pick Marshawn Lattimore at number 4 overall and just load up on awesome cornerbacks.
They would that defense, you wouldn't be able to pass.
What a terrible strategy.
They had Marshawn Lattimore right now.
They got 4
but they have a sick running game. No, they don't. But Jalen Ramsey allowing a 28.6 completion percentage against. That's tops in the NFL. AJ Boye not far behind at 41.2%. If they continue that for a whole season, they won't. But if they come close to that, that will be crazy. I think, it's the Jets. We can stop talking about it. Jags win big. On to the Bengals, who travel to the Browns in the Ohio rivalry, which I think
here we are.
They said today, Hugh Jackson said today, it's not a rivalry because we both suck or something like that. Bengals favored by 3 heading into this one. Who you got, Steve?
Yeah, I got the Bengals. I just think they're still a better all-around team than the Browns. I think defensively, so lost in this whole shuffle here is that Cincinnati's been pretty good defensively, pressuring the quarterback more than any other team. And I know they're coming off the Green Bay game where they just torched them, but they're getting more pressure than any team in the NFL. And we kept talking about Cincinnati's offensive line, which is still bad, but the defense is starting to come together, and that should keep them in games. And I think that's what's going to be the difference in this one.
I am going with the Browns. I am desperately hoping that Myles Garrett plays in this game because
he should be.
I think
he was at practice today.
I think that's the difference. Again, we're talking about one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. in the Cincinnati Bengals. We're talking about a team who their line is bad enough to completely torpedo an offense, especially if you have a guy like Myles Garrett who's capable of actually taking advantage of that and destroying somebody.
Myles Garrett, freshman year at Texas A&M, he probably knows how to attack the boy there, because they played against him. I think he was still there. Yeah, he was definitely still there.
Yeah, they were together.
So he'll know the moves to work on Cedric Boy. I don't think you need too many crazy moves, but it's a nice little warm up for him to get back in the swing of things.
I don't think you need inside information to take advantage of that. You just line him up and let him go.
Just run straight ahead and go right through him. Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think the other side of the ball works pretty well as well. I think this Browns offensive line is okay. They're going to do a pretty good job of stifling the Cincinnati Bengals pass attack, the pass rush. Michael Johnson had a big game last week because he was going up against Green Bay's backup tackles. He's going to get shut down this week because he's going up against Joe Thomas. I think they're going to do enough on that side of the ball to give DeShone Kizer some time to work with, and that could be enough to sneak it.
Steve, break down DeShone Kizer for me, because I feel like I've seen all these things in the media, depending on how people had DeShone Kizer rated pre-draft. You can either say, oh, he looks good for a rookie, or, oh, he looks terrible for a rookie. Which one is it?
They're both right. I mean, you can make whatever story you want. I still go back to the scouting report that we wrote coming into the season. He makes the easy things look difficult and the difficult things look easy. So if you were a DeShone Kizer fan and you say, look at this, the difficult things. He moves in the pocket. He makes this downfield throw. He's got this incredible arm talent. You can pull out some incredible plays that maybe even like a Jared Goff couldn't do or a Dak Prescott couldn't do. The problem is hitting the wide open shallow cross or hitting the wide open receiver instead of taking a sack. You know, those are the things Kizer needed to improve upon. We're still seeing that. The supporting cast has been okay. I think we thought it would be a little bit better up front, and we thought it would be a little bit better, or maybe just maybe the expectations are about right as far as the receiving core. But I'm not surprised at how he's played. If you look at our breakdown this week with all of the numbers, he's pretty much bottom 3 in absolutely everything, passer rating at all the levels and grade and all that stuff. Not terribly surprised, because I think he had enough weaknesses that it would be a challenge, and you hope he taps into that upside, Mike.
Ooh, don't say it.
At some point.
He already has 10 turnover-worthy throws through 3 games. That's an incredibly high rate. Only 4 big-time throws to offset that for a game-changer index of 0.4, which is not very good.
Mike is just all in on my numbers here. Big-time throws, turnover-worthy plays. The ratio of them is the game-changing index. You are loving it the last couple of weeks.
But 0.4, not very good.
It's not good at all, Mike.
Not very good at all. I like the Bengals in this one because I just think they're the better team at this point. They have a better quarterback.
A mighty
they have
roar
a better
from the crowd here.
Defensive line. They have playmakers on the outside, which the Browns have looked like they don't at this point. You guys' thoughts? Obviously,
Joe
Sam
Mixon's emerging a little bit.
Sam liked the Browns. Steve, you went with?
I took Cincinnati.
Okay. All right.
Hometown team. Hometown.
On to another AFC North matchup. The Steelers travel to the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers are favored by 3 in this one, but Steve's always play each other close.
What's wrong with the Steelers, Mike? Offense.
Ooh. You want me to break down the Steelers?
Just break it down. Did you just write this?
So, I just mentioned DeShone Kizer's game-changing index of 0.4. Ben Roethlisberger's game-changing index is only 0.7 this year. And that's been probably the biggest thing for this offense and why it has not been successful is he's not making those big plays down the field. His game-changing index over the past 3 seasons has gone from 2.2 down to 1.1 last year. And I kind of excuse that by saying, they didn't have Martavis Bryant. You know, you're not going to have as many open shots down the field to make.
Yep.
And now Martavis Bryant's back, and it's gotten even worse.
Martavis dropped the one that he actually got to him to start the game the other day.
That was a very good throw. That was a plus 1.5 throw, I believe. But he just hasn't been able to offset it with otherwise. There are some, like you said, there's some execution issues. There's drops from the receivers falling down, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, Roethlisberger is not playing close to the guy who made them that ridiculously good offense back in 2015, and that is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, he's 2 years removed from, I thought 2014 and 15 were probably the best 2 years of his career. And I thought Martavis Bryant was a big part of that. They had this perfect complement to Antonio Brown when he was on the field. And I did expect that bounce back. You know, even you go back to week 1 against Cleveland, Ben almost blew the game with a late interception that allowed Cleveland back into it. So he is a big concern for a team that has the playmakers, that has a good offensive line, that has Le'Veon Bell, a defense that's, continued to get better. They haven't been good through the years, but they continue to get better. They're blitzing at a high rate, getting pressure on the quarterback on blitzes better than any team in the league. So they're doing better things on defense. It's coming down to Big Ben.
Well, as much as everyone wants to hammer on Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell has also been playing pretty terribly as well. He is our 46th graded running back at the moment, at 45.2. The offensive line hasn't been as good as a run blocking unit as it is as a pass blocking unit so far this year. But Le'Veon Bell's numbers, even including the ones he generates himself, yards after contact, broken tackles, that kind of thing, everything is down. So he's struggling at least as much as Roethlisberger, if not more.
And I went back and went through that Bears game. They weren't overloading the box. They had 3 runs where they overloaded the box out of just 15. So it wasn't, you can't explain it away by saying, they were keyed up to stop the run. They weren't. Le'Veon Bell just wasn't getting it done.
You seen anything different with Bell or teams? So what New England did, so Le'Veon Bell got hurt in the AFC Championship last year, and only ran a couple times. But New England, we talk about how conservative they are with rushing the passer. They were playing very conservative, just kind of hold your gap because he likes to not go with the flow of the play and does his own thing. Teams adjusting to him a little bit, adjusting to his style, not overcommitting to gaps, because that's what he took advantage of last year especially.
No, I think the Bears were holding up especially well with their defensive line and attacking the double teams, because it's like they're coming now. If you're facing the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line, you're going to get double teamed. You know what's coming. They're going to come straight at you if you're lined up in a gap. And so now everyone sort of the book is out. That's what's going to happen. You can attack that better if you know it's happening. And I think the Bears did a very good job of that. That's what I saw.
I think they're pretty good. They're pretty well qualified in terms of defensive linemen to hold up against that kind of thing. Those guys are good against the run up front. The defensive linemen in particular.
Baltimore Ravens are as well.
Yes.
I mean,
Michael Pierce.
If Brandon Williams back, he was the difference in that Jags game. That's obviously the reason why they lost 44-7. Not having him made all that difference. That's why my pick was wrong on that one. But no, if he's back, Michael Pierce, Urban is out, but I think they do still have some horses up front that can two-gap well enough to stop Le'Veon Bell in that run game. So I'm picking the Ravens in this one because.
Okay, but the Ravens offense.
Oh, it's like I was
Ravens
offense around that
right now. I mean, Flacco looking terrible. He was okay through the first couple weeks. It was just a disaster last week. -1 air yard.
Yep.
Is that what it was? That was our stat
Negative
on Monday?
I could have beat that.
Out of his 18 yards?
I could have done that.
Any one of us could have thrown a screen to beat that.
Just spike the ball.
Yeah, it's
just spike it. There you
not
go.
attempted a pass.
But so they got to get something going on. The offensive line got torched, and again, is that because it was Jacksonville's defensive line?
No, that offensive line is terrible right now.
So
without Marshall Yanda,
that's a big concern for Baltimore.
That offense, James Hurst, Ronnie Stanley hasn't been taking the next step that we thought he would. It is a monstrous problem, that offensive line.
And Joe Flacco has the league's worst passer rating under pressure. His passer rating under pressure right now is 7.9.
All these sort of older quarterbacks look like they're just starting to crumble under pressure. No one wants to get hurt, it seems like. The guys with these injury histories, Joe Flacco.
Except that one guy not crumbling under pressure.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers?
Don't say it.
Tom Brady, the 40-year-old? The 40-year-old?
With recent injury histories, they just seem to be very avoiding, very.
Well, Flacco could still be hurt. I mean, he didn't play any preseason action. Didn't see any action in the preseason, so he's still finding his way.
He does look shaken, though. I wanted to not talk about the Ravens offense because that's going to very much make me question my pick.
All right, so you and Gordon picked Baltimore. The rest of us picked Pittsburgh. As usual, it'll probably be a 3-point game because that's how these teams roll.
I was so sure when that word started with "sh," you were coming up with a completely different word to describe Joe Flacco.
Let's not go there.
Would have been fair.
It would have been fair. All right, on to the Bills, who traveled to the Falcons in the last of the 1 p.m. games this weekend. Falcons favored by 8, but the Bills are coming off a pretty big win over the Denver Broncos. Bills don't look like the team that everyone thought was tanking this season, so far, at least. If they're trying to tank, they're doing it poorly.
They are.
Credit to our analytics team. They had Buffalo higher than most, still have them much higher than most, and I think, you credit Sean McDermott, the new scheme. They've changed things up on defense, and the defense has kept them in every game.
Who else do you credit, Steve?
You?
No.
Oh, Tyrod.
There you go.
Oh, Tyrod's playing all right. He's taking care of the ball, at least. Low turnover-worthy play percentage. Taking care of the ball, Tyrod.
That's what he does.
That is what he does.
0 turnover-worthy throws, actually.
There you go.
0. There you go. Tyrod will
After
not
like
put
15
the ball
in the preseason.
in harm's way. He's a specific type of quarterback that you can win with. And I think it's impressive that he's playing this well when they've essentially dismantled that offense around him and gone away from a lot of the stuff that made him so dangerous in the last couple of years, I think he's earning himself a lot of money this offseason because they're not going to keep him long term. And somebody is going to want him if he continues to play this way.
You think so?
Yeah.
People want to find reasons not to like Tyrod Taylor.
Oh, I know. But that's why Buffalo.
But you're right. It is
But if he proves that he can play in this system without the benefit of all these quirky stuff that they were doing before, I think that makes him a lot of money compared league-wide because suddenly everyone looks at that and says, that will work in my offense.
Right. I mean, look, he does take care of the ball. He can hit the ball, the deep ball every now and again. There are things to Tyrod's game.
They are still averaging like 17 points per game.
Whatever.
Offensively. I mean, they put up a good score against the Broncos, but
Tre'Davious White, number 2 rookie in the Rookie of the Year race so far, cornerback.
The Falcons, though, are they the best team in the NFL right now?
Ooh. See, I don't think they are at all. Okay. I mean, I don't have a good answer for who is.
Yeah, well,
Kansas City? Maybe Kansas City is. But I don't look at Atlanta's 3 games and think, okay, they're definitely the best team. Yeah, they're 3-0.
Grade-wise,
they are graded dramatically as the best team at the moment.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
But I still don't think that it's this hands down the Falcons are the best team in the NFL. They have to be up there. I still have concerns. Matt Ryan's only hit 2 deep balls the entire year, 20-plus yard throws. I think at some point that comes back to bite them. He had another game-winning screen pass like he did last year. Had 6 touchdowns on screen, so they still have those.
Sound a little bitter.
Those easy yards. Oh, I'm just saying, the offense is still finding a way to create yardage. Taylor Gabriel with the unbelievable run on the screen pass to seal the deal in the fourth quarter against Detroit. So that even without Kyle Shanahan, they are finding ways to move the ball and score points. But I do think Ryan has regressed a little bit since last year's MVP season, and that could come back to bite him unless he turns it around.
This is another great team of an example of how hard it is to find offensive linemen in today's NFL. Last season they had this line that was like 4/5 of a great offensive line, and the 5th was Chris Chester, who was getting too old, retired this offseason. You say, well, he retired, but he was so bad last year that it would be pretty difficult not to upgrade on that guy. Just any random person out there at guard, they're probably going to be better than Chester was a year ago. No. Turns out you can still do exactly that bad by putting any random stiff in there. And it's still their problem. They've got, again, 4/5 of a pretty good offensive line, and it's just so hard to find good linemen.
Wes Schweitzer will be okay. I like him. One game, he'll be okay.
A source in the league, though, told me this is the toughest offensive line to go against in the run game. They're so fast sideline to sideline that it puts a lot of stress on linebackers.
Use breakout sources.
Sources
in the league told me that.
You do not have any sources, Mike.
They are fast, though, up and down that front. That's an athletic offensive line. Tough to go. Alex Mack, still one of the best centers in the NFL. I do think
they're so tough they're tough to defend in the pass game, though, too, because we know about Julio, the best wide receiver in the NFL. You have a Sunday night game against Green Bay where Mohamed Sanu is kind of their go-to guy. Last week, Taylor Gabriel's he gets the game-winning touchdown. They do have legitimate weapons. Austin Hooper's making those big plays in week 1. It's legitimately been a different guy every single week. Tevin Coleman out of the backfield, different guy every week. That's a different non-Julio guy every single week. That versatility does make them tough to defend.
That's a good offense. I think they're a much better team than the Bills.
Yeah, they should beat the Bills.
Home. Should take the W.
Should beat the Bills.
Yep. 8 points might be a lot with that Bills defense, but yeah, I like them to win this. On to the 4 p.m. games this Sunday. Giants travel to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 3 in this one, despite looking like not very good last week against the Minnesota Vikings. That's when I was going to say another S word again. Yeah. But not very good last week against the Minnesota Vikings. Giants, though, they've looked not very good all season long.
Yes.
So I can see why they're favored by 3. Who do you like in this one, Sam?
The Giants, quietly, their defensive front was supposed to be fantastic. It was fantastic last year. Olivier Vernon hasn't been 100% healthy. JPP has been getting shut down by people. Even Harrison, Damon in the middle, hasn't been as phenomenal since. He's been kind of kept quiet a bit. If you don't have that, it's not as good a defense as it looked a year ago. And the offense has been terrible, between Eric Flowers, between Eli Manning. That's just hasn't been able to get anything working. So they need that defense to carry this team, which is what it did pretty much all of last season, and it isn't nearly as good as it was a year ago.
They are still running their defensive ends into the ground.
Yes.
JPP, Olivier Vernon, 196 and 191 snaps respectively. That's 3rd and 4th most among defensive linemen. Those guys are taking years off their career. I'd be upset if I was one of those guys. They're like, you can't play that many snaps in a game and remain effective.
I haven't gotten around to it, but I've been meaning to do a study on that. How guys do the next year. Dontari Poe had a year a couple years ago. He played over 1,000 snaps. He's 350 pounds, over 1,000 snaps, had a really good year. The next year he regressed. So they're the small. Vince Wilfork had a year like that. There's Chandler Jones, Rob Ninkovich. I feel like there are guys that do get run into the ground, and it does come back to bite them a little bit. I think I'm the only one who picked the Giants. Except for DeForest. He keeps going. Coming off his best 2 games as a pro. I'm the only one who picked the Giants just because I just don't see them going 0-4. I do think that they're more. Is that fair?
Great analysis.
Is that good analysis? They showed signs of life in the second half offensively with Odell Beckham and Sterling Shepard creating some big plays. I don't expect those receivers to be as bad. This past game to be as bad as it has been. They started to protect Eli Manning a little bit better, so I think the Giants. I'm picking the Giants. I guess I'm winning.
I will say, if there's something that can get Olivier Vernon back on track, it is Donovan Smith. Yes. He started off last week's game with the 2 worst reps I've ever seen someone start off the game with. I don't think he touched a defensive lineman on either play. He whiffed on a run block, literally just whiffed the very first play.
Leaned over.
And it literally was. He dove at, I forget who it was. It might have been, it was Tom Johnson. He dove at Tom Johnson, doesn't even touch him. Next play of the game, Everson Griffin just runs around the edge, and Donovan Smith he swatted his hands away once, and that was it. It was the 2 worst, minus 1.5s on each play. Awful start.
Don't give away our grading.
Some of the laziest reps I've ever seen from an offensive lineman.
That's a great word, actually, of describing it. It was the same the week before. He had some reps where you just think, this is absolutely abysmal. This guy has no business being out here on an NFL field playing like this.
He is trying to take years off of Jameis Winston's career at this point.
Too many ups and downs with Tampa Bay.
Yes.
Too many ups and downs. Too many ebbs and flows with that team on both sides of the ball. So that's why I'm
they
calling
will be inconsistent.
That's why I'm saying down. That's why I'm saying down.
And
quietly,
the Jameis is there.
After that beautiful rant by the guy in New York about the offensive line, Eli Manning quietly pressured only 7 times on 47 dropbacks against the Eagles. Was not sacked. Take that, Pythagoras.
Nerd.
That guy, he said, he's been watching the game for 30-something years, and this is 40 years, sorry. And it was the worst offensive line he'd ever seen. If that is the worst offensive line that guy has ever seen, then he's an idiot. It's not even the worst offensive line in the league now, let alone that the Giants have had in the last 40 years.
Why are you even trying to reason?
It just bugged me.
Just let him go. All
right, I have the Bucks. Sam has the Bucks. Steve has the Giants.
I don't feel great about it, but I did it. Here we are.
On to the Eagles, who travel to L.A. to face the Chargers. Chargers somehow favored in this one, even though they're the worst team in the NFL, apparently.
It's the travel. I should have used the same reasoning. I don't see the Chargers going 0-4. Should have been the reasoning here.
I am breaking.
Who did Mike take?
I am off. I'm officially off the bandwagon.
Abandoned it. They're going to ditch on the side of the road.
Yeah, I was driving it, so it crashed.
Mike's bandwagon is in pieces, missing wheels, smoking, wreck by the side of the street.
The Chargers, man, every year. I should have known better. All right, I'm picking the Eagles, though, in this one. I like the Eagles. They have an actual defensive line, which usually that does in the Chargers.
Yes.
Because they still have not fixed the offense. I will say I gave them the caveat. I said they were a Super Bowl contender if they fixed the offensive line.
Is that your out?
They did not.
Is that your out?
It is not fixed. They've
been a little bit better in pass protection. It's not as disastrous as it was last year.
It's pretty disastrous.
It's still not good, though. Steve, break this one down for me. Who did you pick and why?
I took the Eagles. I actually didn't feel great about this one either, thinking, and I didn't know that the Chargers were favored. That certainly has some of the travel. The travel certainly has something to do with it, but I like the way the Eagles team is coming together. You mentioned the defensive line. I know Jalen Mills is setting records for getting targeted and all that stuff, but the corners have been a little bit better than they were last year. I think they're managing Carson Wentz better now. Last week they managed him extremely well after he was leading the league in turnover-worthy plays the first 2 weeks, but he's made some big plays when necessary. So I just like the way that team's coming together on both lines. I know we said that their line was the best in the NFL coming into the year. They've been good, not great. So I like the way the Eagles are coming together.
They are going to tear that Los Angeles Chargers offensive line to ribbons, though. Brandon Graham is going to have himself a day. Joe Barksdale's been grading badly as a pass protector and a run blocker despite not giving up a sack yet. Philip Rivers is going to be under pressure all day long, and he no longer has the arm to get himself out of that pressure. And there's
Rivers
so
was
many.
bad
Well, yeah, aside from the fact that he's just throwing the ball to defenders at the moment,
Right.
even if he fixes that, he just doesn't have the arm strength to overcome those kind of ugly throws under pressure where he's got to get out, and it's all arm. You know, the way those throws you got to get off balance. He can't do that anymore. He's just going to be shot putting those balls up into coverage and hoping somebody comes down with it, and that's going to result in picks.
Mike, great tweet this week. The class of 2004 quarterbacks all look old and decrepit, and we're ready to replace all of them, from Philip Rivers to Eli Manning to Big Ben. But the class of 2005
in their prime
was Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And nobody's looking at them like, hey, these guys need like a wheelchair.
It really is crazy how those, like, you think, I thought back and I was like, oh, they must have been like a handful of years apart. They are back-to-back years, those
They
guys.
do feel
It is crazy.
years apart from each other.
What happened to Joey Bosa this year?
Well, I think part
He
of
has
it...
3 sacks, but in our grading is
They're
not
using him a little
up
bit.
to-
Yeah, they've made him a full-time defensive end. They've gone to that kind of overshifted defensive front. He's the defensive end in it. And it's not because he can't play outside linebacker in that system, because Melvin Ingram is playing outside linebacker in that system. So if you're saying he can rush the passer, he can rush it from a 2-point stance as well as he can rush it from a 3-point stance. And last season, I think what a big part of his success was they moved him around. They used him as a defensive end. They used him as an outside linebacker. They used him both sides of the line. Now they're not doing that. He's being confined to just a defensive end, and he isn't as effective. It's not that he's bad. He just hasn't been as good.
Somewhat similar to what happened to Jadeveon Clowney a season ago. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think that's some of it, definitely. Same kind of deal.
I do think, though, even though Carson Wentz has the largest gap right now in the NFL in terms of completion percentage when kept clean and under pressure, and I think he will be under some pressure in this game, it's not like Philip Rivers is beating you when he's facing pressure either, and he'll be facing, I think, more pressure. So that, to me, would be the difference in this one. I worry about the Eagles secondary. It's not good. Jalen Mills last week set the record for targets in a game. 21 targets, which is insanity.
Unbelievable.
But I still think the Eagles get it done.
Wentz, by the way,
traveling all the way across.
He has always had one of the largest differentials between kept clean passer rating and under pressure passer rating. His numbers in college were absolutely insane. When it was like dropped 60 points or something between kept clean and under pressure. I think that's going to be him in the NFL. The better you can keep him clean in the pocket, the better he's going to be, and the less prone to throwing the game away he is.
For sure. We still all like the Eagles, though?
Yes.
Eagles. Took the Eagles.
Eagles. All right, on to the 49ers, who travel to the Cardinals. Cardinals favored by 7 in this one at home after a all right showing, at least offensively, against the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Steve, are the Cardinals are they better by that much in this game? Are they actually that much better of a team?
I'm looking at our picks. Did Gordon accidentally pick San Francisco again? Is that just every week he's going to take down?
He accidentally picked Miami, too, apparently.
He accidentally picked Miami as well. Yeah, I think Arizona's just they're a better team. Carson Palmer, this is just classic Carson Palmer season. Second in the league in big-time throws, I believe it is. And he's, Mike, you got our turnover-worthy throw numbers?
10 turnover-worthy
It's 10 and 10, but it's like he's at the top of both. It's this, high, volatile passing attack. But the big plays, I think, will get it done for him in this one. He made a lot of big plays
against
Dallas.
They're the most fun team to watch in the NFL. On primetime games, those are great games because
all the replays.
It's like the old school, like he's throwing the ball 30 yards once every set of downs is going deep, and it's awesome to watch.
He's chucking it behind this bad offensive line too.
They were inches from making a bunch of really big plays, in addition to the ones they did make in that game against Dallas. So I think that they'll probably make a few more of those against the 49ers, and it'll probably be good for the points.
Bruce Arians also worst challenge of all time last Monday night. When the receiver obviously didn't catch the ball.
How does that
challenges his foot being in bounds, which he didn't catch the ball, that was great to see. That coach is still making terrible challenges, even with all the technology afforded to them, guys in their ears in the booth, still throwing the flag.
Or just a replay video board right in front of your face.
Or that too. Yeah, those are there as well. But
it's not like it's big.
Let's talk about the 49ers offense, though. And Was last week an aberration, or is Brian Hoyer the quarterback of the future? Okay,
come on,
Mike.
Come on.
All right. Is
couldn't
this
even say it without laughing.
Can Kyle Shanahan scheme some offense? Can they create some offense this year? Will they be a competent offense? Because they were the worst in the NFL.
Well, this is what I expected. Between first half of the year, Brian Hoyer and Kyle Shanahan, I thought that they'd be this team where Hoyer would look reasonable and they'd give every team a pretty good game. And so that was exactly what I expected. Not 39 points, but after the pick six, they were a reasonable offense. I think they could do that week in, week out. Get a little bit from Carlos Hyde running the ball, scheme up. The offensive line's been so much better this year. Probably the scheme helping them a little bit. So, yeah, I think they're going to be a difficult team to beat every week, and that's it.
Pierre Garçon is really good, by the way.
Oh, man.
And has been for a while. I mean, he was, number 8 graded receiver last year, entirely under the radar. Goes to San Francisco.
Only one drop last year?
And he's still playing. He made some spectacular catches in that game.
There was a point in his career, 2010, I think he was the rookie, had some good numbers with Peyton Manning, and everybody's like, oh, look at Peyton can make anybody look good. And I don't think we realized how good Garçon would become. He's been consistent everywhere he's gone and, still making plays.
Yeah, 3 different franchises now. I really, though, selfishly want the 49ers to not be good this year. I want them to lose because I want them to get a franchise quarterback, and I want them to get some weapons offensively and just see what Kyle Shanahan can do in the future. I don't want them drafting 12th. I don't want them drafting in the middle of the first round. I want them really being bad this year.
I don't think they're in any danger of drafting 12.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe not. On to the Raiders. Oh, we all like the Cardinals in this one? So
yeah, we took the Cardinals.
Yeah,
everyone except Gordon.
Oh, yeah. On to the Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos favored by 2.5. AFC West division rivalry, 2-1 teams, I believe.
Yep.
Broncos favored by 2.5. Do we like the Broncos, Steve?
I took the Broncos because they're at home, and they look like a much different team at home.
Yes,
they do. They rush the passer really well at home. I mean, look, it sounds cliche, but it's a legitimate factor for the offensive lines. It's difficult to play on the road. Gives Von Miller and Shaq Barrett, those guys, that little extra half second to get off the ball. And Trevor Siemian played a pretty bad game after playing 2 solid games, I'd say, at home the first 2 weeks. So, there is a part of me that thinks, classic Jack Del Rio coach teams where sometimes they'll lose games that they should win, and then they'll play unbelievable in games that you just don't expect. This is the game where people are probably going to write off the Raiders, and they're going to come back and, through 2 weeks they looked like, one of the best teams in the AFC. So I do expect them to bounce back. I expect a really good game, but I'll take Denver.
Why does Derek Carr have games, though, where it looks like he just can't complete a pass?
And they're all in prime time, like Andy Dalton here.
And when he does complete a pass, it's like 3 yards down the field.
I don't have a good answer.
It's not like, I'm throwing a bunch of picks, but it's like I'm throwing for no yards whatsoever. It's like a 100-yard game, which doesn't even make sense against a defense like the Washington Redskins.
Some of those passes were unbelievable. There was one he tried to hit Cordero Patterson in the end zone when they showed a perfect replay from exactly behind it, basically the view that Derek Carr had. The guy had inside position the entire time. Patterson's route basically just ran into the defensive back and hugged him. And Carr took a look at that and went, yeah, that looks open. Took a shot at it and it was almost picked off. And you're just thinking, it's not even a rookie mistake. It's just an absolute terrible, horrendous decision that had no business being made. And he has games where he does that. It's bizarre.
I think we're finding that low-end Derek Carr is just not very good, and you'll see that a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Against Kansas City last year. Both games against Kansas City last year, against Washington last week. Normally, week in, week out, he looks pretty good. His bad games just happen to be on primetime again, like Dalton.
His good games are really good. The difference between him and Dalton is I think his baseline is much higher.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the bad stuff is still horrible, but when you get good Derek Carr, you have one of the better quarterbacks in the league. This feels like a game to me where it was a bit of a shock. Oakland went across to Washington, got pretty much stomped by a team I think everyone thought they were better than. This feels like a game where they come back and actually remind people that they're a really good team. They're one of the class teams in the AFC, and I think they could take it to Denver and really give them. I expect them to win, even if it is on the road.
Complete opposite. I think Von Miller tears Marshall Newhouse a new house. And
good one, Mike.
That's not where else. And I think that the secondary is of the Denver Broncos uniquely qualified to shut down Oakland Raiders and their 2 two wide receivers.
It is it's a good matchup there because obviously, Carr at his best, Carr, Crabtree, Cooper, great connection, great chemistry. What are you smiling at, Mike?
That terrible joke.
You're still laughing at how bad your joke was.
Yeah.
We'll cut it. Don't worry. We'll cut it out.
Please cut that. Yeah. Taylor, make a note.
Taylor, do not cut that.
I do think though that just if the receivers can't separate down the field, Derek Carr thrives on that because he still, like you were saying, he still will throw the ball even when they're not separate. He throws the ball before it's almost like predetermined. I'm going here. He better separate or else it's going to be an incomplete pass. I worry that that's going to be the case in this one.
It's the opposite to Alex Smith.
I'm going with the Broncos. I think they're going to cover 2.5. I don't think it's going to be a particularly close game, if I'm being honest.
I took Denver.
And
take Oakland, Sam?
Oakland.
All right, on to Sunday Night Football, where the Colts travel to Seattle to face the Seahawks in what should be a barn burner.
Yes.
The Seahawks favored by 13 in this game. Have they even scored 13 in a game this year yet? Yeah, they have. But it's been tight.
Last week, and they're lost.
Yeah. I think we need to quote George for this because he summed up this game better than I think any of us would have been able to. He was saying, Seattle against Indianapolis, it should be a vintage display of quarterback play, and instead it's going to look like a Civil War reenactment, given the two offensive lines that are protecting the quarterbacks there.
Oh, this should have been, it should have been a battle between who was the better of the class of
Civil War Andrew
2012.
Luck. That's exactly how I started our NBC video of the week. In what should have been a great battle, we will now get Russell Wilson and Jacoby Brissett.
Going to get a train wreck of offensive line playing disastrous offense.
It's a little sad we have to wait 4 more years to see Russell Wilson versus Andrew Luck again.
And to finally decide which one's better.
Unless they get traded.
That's
the only way to decide which one's better, too.
Yeah, that's the only way.
The only way.
Seahawks defensive line, though. We talked about it a little bit this week.
Well, actually, go check it out. YouTube, Sports Illustrated.
They were the ones who only got 2 pressures against the Titans offense last week. I actually said it earlier, if you guys if you guys have been listening after the Week 1 podcast, that the Seattle Seahawks defensive line, not quite the same teeth. Steve said no, they're going to bounce back. They haven't bounced back.
At some point, they're going to bounce back. At some point, they're going to bounce back. They're getting worse. They're 30th in the NFL in pressure percentage. They have not ranked lower than 6th over the last 4 years. So they're 30th right now. That's a major concern. But you know what can help?
Playing the Indianapolis
Colts offensive line at home, too.
So Cliff Avrill's 31 years old. Michael Bennett's 31 years old.
Yeah,
there's not necessarily, it's a bounce back.
He was
That's
30
an age
years
where you can decline.
He was 30 years old last year, and he got 70 pressures.
Age could be a bit of a factor. They have to play better than they have.
He didn't go from being one of the better 4-3 ends in the league to being useless in the space of his 31st birthday.
I wouldn't know. I'm not 31. So you guys would know that.
Well, I've been there and done that. It doesn't matter.
You guys would know.
He's got years left in him yet.
I'm 35. I feel like I did at 31. Not going to lie.
There's not too much more to talk about in this one. Seahawks will win. We will pick the Seahawks to win. Yes. I'm not just going to say they will win, but they should win handily. On to the last game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Redskins travel to the Chiefs. Chiefs, as Steve said, might be the best team in the NFL right now. They're favored by 7 points in this one at home on prime time. Does Alex Smith light it up again, Steve? Is he gonna continue this pace for any sort of
the 127 passer rating pace or whatever he's on? Over 62% of his yards have come after the catch. And I'm not trying to take down what Alex Smith has done because the deep ball's been so much better. I think you just credit that scheme though too, from a shovel pass to Travis Kelce that he takes for about a 20-yard touchdown to how they're using Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. I mean, they're an explosive big play offense now, and they do it in multiple ways. On the ground, short pass game. Alex Smith's making just enough deep passes to keep defenses honest.
Well, here's the thing. We said earlier that it's not really changing because Alex Smith is still not taking any more deep shots than he did before. Last season he averaged about 3 deep shots a game. This season he's averaging about 3 deep shots a game. It was just that they were all wide open. He was hitting these guys like Kareem Hunt 50 yards down the field, walks in for a touchdown, Tyreek Hill. But if you look at that Chargers game, there were some throws in there where Alex Smith didn't have a wide open guy deep down the field. He read like a legitimate NFL read. He saw Tyreek Hill had single coverage on the outside. The safety was leaning to the other side of the field, and he thought, that is a favorable matchup. I'm just going to put the ball in the air. Now, the one time he did that late on, he missed a throw. It was out of bounds. But those decisions are the ones that Alex Smith hasn't made in the past. if he's now doing that now, if he's got just a little bit less conservative, a little bit more YOLO when it comes to the deep ball, then we could see a much better Alex Smith this year.
And that's a game changer for Kansas City's
exactly,
offense.
Yeah.
It's an absolute game changer. And then defensively, the thing I keep saying about their defense is, I don't know if there's any good stat that always sums them up as one of the league's best, but they're one of the league's best when they have to go up against, they're potentially one of the league's best going up against good quarterbacks and being able to just contain pretty good quarterbacks. They've shown it year in, year out. Kirk Cousins last week had his best game of the season by far. He's naturally streaky. This also feels like one of those games where he just kind of comes back down to earth, right, against the Kansas City defense.
The Kansas City defense has been tough. Marcus Peters is having a career year at this point through 3 games. And
Sam and I broke down on yesterday's podcast about how he does it sometimes. Not even making interceptions and big plays when he's not even covering a guy because he has such a great feel for the game. That is scary. That legitimately shuts down half the field if you know that you've got a guy that can pick off a pass to anybody on that side of the field.
And I think he can, what he brings to the table can shut down someone like Terrell Pryor, who's still not a completely polished route runner, still not someone who can generate a ton of separation on his own. I think going up against a guy like Marcus Peters, he'll just shut him down this game.
Yeah, I could easily see that.
The underrated thing for me, though, in this one to watch is Washington's defensive front. They dominated the Oakland offensive line last Sunday Night Football. Junior Gillette is back after 3 years and looks like he hasn't missed a beat, even though he tore his Achilles, twice, which is sometimes the kiss of death for players.
Curtains.
He looks legit. Jonathan Allen playing well. Matt Ioannidis coming out of nowhere to play well for the defense. I thought that defensive line was going to be an issue for them.
Coming out?
I did like
all
Matt
of a sudden,
Ioannidis.
it looks like it could be the strength of the defense. Is this defense, is it good enough to where the Redskins can make the playoffs with them?
In that division, yeah. I mean, we thought that was going to be a tough division with all 4 of those teams kind of taking each other out, but I think it's worse than we thought it was, but still the same story. I think all 4 of those teams are going to be battling it out for that division, and Washington are right in that mix.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep rushing the passer like that, we said before the season, the more we broke it down, I said maybe the Eagles are the team that sneaks out of this division because we expected, hey, Cowboys will regress, the Giants will regress. I expected Washington to regress offensively, but if they could do more of what they did Sunday night, with guys like Chris Thompson stepping up, maybe they can.
By the way, the Matt Ioannidis thing I just want to go back to again, because not only was I right in liking him, but I was right in the way that I liked him. I liked him as a penetrating 3-tech pass rusher. Everyone else was saying, oh no, this guy's he's got length, he's a 2-gap guy, he's a stuff the run kind of guy.
Who was saying that?
A lot of people. Wasn't who he was at Temple. He was
I don't even remember anybody talking about Matt Ioannidis.
There was a big Matt Ioannidis circle. Clearly you guys missed the boat on that one.
Matt Ioannidis, by the way, for our listeners who don't know who he is,
we never
was a 5th round pick in 2016.
Never should have brought him up.
His solid interior.
He was a solid
lineman.
college defensive tackle. Graded well in our system. Off to a good start so far this season.
Still, though, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome the Chiefs. What they do on both sides of the ball right now. They look like a very complete team, and like Steve said, they might be the best team in football right now.
Should be a fun game. I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, it should be a good game. That's it for us, though. We were Pro Football Focus. We're going to be back here every Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. talking every game in the upcoming weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.